Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us to talk about OpenSearch today. I am super excited to have a selection of, can I call you experts? Is that okay? Have a selection of friends and, no, I am going to call you experts with me to talk a bit about OpenSearch, the project, but also their experiences. They've promised me some good stories, so I'm waiting to see that happen. And I'm really happy to have all of you in the audience joining us as well. I'm going to introduce this crowd, and at any point during this session, feel free to ask us some questions. We're in the chat. We've got Slido open as well, so we'll get the links out to you, and you can pick the brains of my excellent new friends here. So I'm going to introduce everyone in turn. First up, let's say hi to Itamar. Give me a wave. There we are. Everyone knows who you are. Give you a name as well. CTO and founder at BigData Boutique, working with OpenSearch and Elasticsearch since the very beginning, and leading a team of world-class experts providing support for companies using OpenSearch all around the world. That is awesome. I am looking forward to hearing the old stories as well as the new ones. Welcome, Itamar. Next, I'd like to introduce Arkadii. Am I saying your name right vaguely?
Yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. Thank you for
me.
joining. Your intro says that you're an OpenSearch support engineer at BigData Boutique, fiddling with computers, technical term, working with big data and search engines, mostly Elasticsearch and OpenSearch as well, since 2015. Awesome. Glad to have you here, Arkadii. Lior, you're next. Give us a wave. Hello. Big data ops at BigData Boutique. Makes sense, right? Helping companies build and optimize their big data and search platforms with many years of experience using Elasticsearch and OpenSearch in production. Again, looking for those production stories later, and ops always have the best stories. Which brings me to Andriy. Hi, Andriy. Give us a wave. This is Andriy. I work with Andriy, but I'm still going to read the words that we agreed to introduce him with. Seasoned software developer and open source believer with a great passion for code. A member of Aiven's open source program office. So if we say OSPO at any point, that's them. Open source program office, and an OpenSearch core project contributor. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to kick off with a really easy question, which I might regret, but I'm going to try. We're here today to talk about OpenSearch, but do users have a really good understanding of whether or not they should be using OpenSearch in the first place? What sort of questions do you meet from users?
Okay, I will start with that. I think it's been a couple of years OpenSearch is already live, and I would say you still see people being confused what OpenSearch is and what Elasticsearch is, and the confusion goes away a little bit. I guess it becomes a little bit more clear now, but it is still there, and these two projects are basically living together side by side. And we often see these questions, why you have to choose open source solution over the proprietary solution. And we say, okay, OpenSearch is really a solution driven by community, solution which will never be asked to pay for. And this is a solution we think is the future of OpenSearch engines for powering your search capabilities. And this is the message we would like to our users to get out of it. What is OpenSearch and what is the difference between OpenSearch and Elasticsearch? This is my perspective. Itamar, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So this is like the introduction to OpenSearch. Hi, before everything, hi Lorna. Thank you, Aiven, for hosting. Really happy to be here. I've been working with you folks for a while now, and really enjoying this collaboration. So yes, OpenSearch it's not a new project, right? It's been there for a while under a different name. Most of us probably know it as well as Elasticsearch, the ones that have been run for a while. I personally have been working with Elasticsearch, which shares the same core as OpenSearch for over 10 years now. So there's a lot of use cases and a lot of things you can do with it. I believe OpenSearch, just as Elasticsearch, the predecessor, is perfect for anything around full text search, for building search on top of listings. It can be text-based, it can be geographical, it can be other types of things that you want to retrieve fast. And then there's also the logs use case, the real-time BI use cases, and all of those. So basically everything you would have been doing with the Elasticsearch, OpenSearch, is, like you say, the open alternative, or the open version of that. And yeah, it's out there in the wild in so many places for so many use cases. And happy to discuss all of those.
I'm going to ask the opposite question now. So I asked you, do people know when they should be using OpenSearch? Do people know when they shouldn't be using OpenSearch? Do you see any really incorrect uses? What are your warning signs?
Well, we saw some people using OpenSearch heavily in the analytic use cases, where they don't need the full text search at all. They just want analytics. The solution can do that, but it's not always the optimal kind of product for that use case.
Do you have a favorite alternative for those kinds of use cases? What should I be using?
Oh, wow, that's like a very, very broad question, I think. There are multiple alternatives. There is ClickHouse. There are other big data, kind of bigger data-oriented solutions as well. That might be slower, but they will work better with huge amounts of data.
Yeah, so I think what Arkadii means here is the joins. Maybe we need to kind of call it out explicitly. So everything that is kind of, let's say, star schema or relational mindset is not going to fit into Elasticsearch. However you kind of try to play it. There are ways of doing some of the stuff, but usually that's doomed to failure.
Yeah, I want to say that everything that's highly relational is kind of hard to get working in OpenSearch unless you manage to denormalize the schema, basically flatten your document structures. And that kind of tends to be one thing. Also, anything that is, I guess, highly aggregate based. So if we have sessions and users and we want to find users by their average session time on a website, unless you kind of denormalize the data, that's going to be hard in Elasticsearch. It's going to have a lot of data duplication. It's like the classic join use case that will be hard to get working.
That makes a lot of sense. So analytics is definitely a warning sign. Any other favorite bad uses that you've seen?
Pretty much, I believe, quite a lot. So again, I guess let's connect to the previous point. Too many people are using Elasticsearch as an alternative to a SQL database or a SQL-like or relational data storage. So either they kind of evolved from there. So they had a SQL, they wanted to have full text search. You just said, well, let's do what we did on a SQL, and then let's just add full text search by just moving to Elasticsearch. And they did it wrong. They didn't do document-oriented modeling, or it just cannot fit there. They did Google. They came to a blog discussing join field, previously called parent-child or nested documents. They thought it's going to fix their issues, but you had one issue, now you have 5. So that's that. I think another use case we're often seeing, we just saw it this week with a large customer of ours, is using Elasticsearch for things like that are more suitable for key value store. So retrieving documents by key, and then also making a lot of updates to it. That's not going to fly. Again, just use Elasticsearch for the sweet spots, and don't think it's don't mistake it for a silver bullet, because no technology is a silver bullet.
That makes sense to me. Arkadii?
Yeah, if a solution can do something, it doesn't mean that it should do something.
Yeah, Arkadii mentioned it's a broad question. I want to say it's a highly personal question, because you really kind of have to tailor it to see what you need.
Yeah, I've been involved to some projects where people would be trying to denormalize some graph databases into the search engine, and it was very painful. Any kinds of update tracking was highly convoluted mess.
Yeah, on the other hand, though, we have like things like time series, use cases, things that are kind of append only, even if they're analytical. There is some use case for search. Those are pretty much the perfect out-of-the-box solutions. And I think even those, I think even the, let's call it incorrect use cases, they still somehow fly because it's a distributed system out of the box, really simple API. There are some advantages, right?
Yeah,
in
right.
many cases, you can just throw more hardware at it, and that doesn't solve the problem, but it kind of solves the problem.
Well, and I often think the tool that you know is often the best tool to get things done. Even if you're going to run into problems later, it can often solve the immediate problem. And it seems like actually OpenSearch and its predecessors can solve a bunch of different problems. That was quite a selection of stories. So I know that between you have many accumulated years of experience with OpenSearch, Elasticsearch, and all those related technologies. What is it that you like about this tech stack, and how has it changed over the time that you've been working with it? Itamar, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I think to me, this is where I started. That's full text search. I started as working on Lucene, which is the core technology under the hood, and pretty much a lot of what Elasticsearch and OpenSearch are offering are just thin layer of API on top of just what Lucene has to offer. And for me, that's the exciting thing over there, and that's the use cases I've been working on. And then how do you do language? How do you do search in different languages? How do you correctly rank documents? Then in latest say months or just recent years, there's also a lot of movement around how do you do search on vectors. That is not just on terms, not just full text search, but it's now more on going towards the machine learning space, and OpenSearch can handle that as well. So for me, it's the search and the findability of data, text mostly, and doing things with it. That I believe is the fascinating stuff. And then finding I don't know, bugs in Unicode specifications, like we've done before, one time before, and things like that. So yeah, to me that's the exciting part. And whenever we get to work with a customer that actually is trying to push the boundaries, or is trying to solve a problem that is not trivial in those spaces, that's also always exciting for me.
Yeah, for me, it's just that there's a great kind of space for plugins. And so for the more advanced use cases where you need to push the boundary, you can always get some custom tools into it. Not always, not always the safest option. It's definitely the more exciting one, to say the least. So things like doing joins with different databases to kind of rank results based on pretty much many parameters, all sorts of like complex things. Those are pretty cool to do. For me, it was always just the fact that it's opt out of indexing rather than opt into indexing like other database systems. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, even if you just run it without understanding a lot. It does have a lot of power. So yeah, that's it for me.
I really like that.
Well,
It's like super approachable. That's cool.
yeah, that kind of similar to what I wanted to say is that basically out of the box, what I really liked about it is that you're getting a whole lot of the support for different languages, for example, which is like before Elasticsearch appeared and before Lucene got its popularity. Uh, I had some experience with stuff like Sphinx for the Python, but it was very kind of clunky to get it working with anything except for basically English and maybe European languages. But in Elastic, they added a lot of stuff, and then in OpenSearch they have it too, like Cyrillic languages, CJK languages, all kinds of like right to left languages as well. That's pretty awesome.
And I would like to add from developers' lenses that it's extremely simple product to start working with from developer perspective. And if you know Lucene basically is brilliant piece of technology, but it's not very easy to work with. But they found this model, they found this right level of abstraction to actually hide this complexity behind the simplicity of APIs they provide. And this is a very, very big selling point for developers.
I really like all those different angles on what's really cool about this tech stack. And I think all of you mentioned sort of the experience, and actually you can do quite a lot even if you have to throw hardware at it. So it was good to kind of hear about Lucene and the history of the project. So when I think about where the project is today, what's the current process of the ecosystem? Andriy, you're a core developer. What's happening in the world of OpenSearch?
Oh, it's a huge amount of interesting developments happening. I cannot even able to catch up with them. But like in general, there are a lot of efforts right now going in improving operational capability of OpenSearch clusters. People do know the stories that Elasticsearch in general and OpenSearch as well inherited, that it's difficult to operate at scale. You have, besides just being GVM product, you have a lot of issues related to cluster management and data partitioning and everything related to that. So a lot have been invested into this space. This is very, very good to see it's happening. Also, a lot has been done to basically bring the latest Lucene features to OpenSearch, like segment-based replication, for example, which right now is very, very, very hot topic, but it basically helps to significantly decrease the amount of compute resources specifically you need for clusters by using different replication strategies. Besides that, a whole bunch of new plugins coming in and integrations coming in with open sources, another open source projects, I would say. Yeah, well, I'll just mention this too, but I guess Itamar will bring even more to the table.
Yeah, so I think you mentioned that, and maybe it's worth saying. There are tons of features, and I think OpenSearch is taking a very clear direction in where it's evolving. I think one of the two directions to watch for, and Andriy a little bit touched on that, is the let's call it serverless OpenSearch. So how you can run run OpenSearch without running OpenSearch. So there is an offering today on AWS OpenSearch serverless, but it's not there yet, right? It's just still being built, and segment replication and other features in the core of OpenSearch are being worked hard in order to make OpenSearch serverless ready. And that's a direction that I think it's worth watching out for, because a lot of the technologies we work today are either managed or even serverless, which is like the next level of managed. And OpenSearch is going there. And I think the features around ML, I mentioned that before, so dense and sparse vector support is also being built into OpenSearch on even on the Lucene level. And then OpenSearch also took it one step further and actually allows several engines, computational engines, to compute on vectors. And you can try them out and see which one is best for your use case. So I guess those two features are really innovative and kind of setting the way.
Do you see users becoming more aware of the options beyond their traditional relational database and starting to adopt? Is OpenSearch something that's, or its equivalents? I guess we can lump all of those things together. Are people starting to outgrow their existing tools with their data requirements and adopt OpenSearch? I'm going to ask you a follow-up question all in one. And do you see people doing that with their cloud transformation and going to managed services because it's easier to sort of compose stuff? What are the changes that you see, particularly for organizations who have existing applications? They're not new orgs, but they're picking up new tech. How do you see that?
So from my perspective, I think that OpenSearch has already gotten to like the peak of the adoption graph. I think it's
mainstream enough. Yeah,
it's totally mainstream. It's been in every
OpenSearch
company.
is not the new tech anymore.
Yeah, I think it's been in every company I've worked for in the last 7-8 years, and it's really widely adopted. But what I think there are two main advantages to a managed service. One of them is that, as you said, it's very easy to get up and running. It's also very easy to get the installation and configuration wrong. So if it's a small business, or if you don't want to have your ops teams take on the operational overhead of maintaining the clusters and the installations, and you need to just get started quickly with a really good bootstrap cluster, the managed services right at where they are today, I might have said something different a couple of years ago, but where they are today, I think they're really good, as well as with the transition to serverless. And I think that it just makes it easier to scale up, handle things like repartitioning, restoring from handling backups, things that all those things are kind of like abstracted as well, on top of like the simplified API.
But that only brings more trouble to the table, as we know.
Yeah, but eventually you do have to own what you kind of cook, even if you're running it managed. So there will come a time where you'll have to actually see what you've done, open up the engine and start fixing. But yeah, I think it's really growing into a place where it's just going to be easier and easier to deploy and manage, which is great. There are a few kind of things to watch out for, though. I've seen a lot of customers do the same mistakes. So I think those are like so just to name, just don't think that it is a schemaless database. That's number one. It's not a schemaless database. It has a schema. It's just called mapping. Number two, think about your sharding strategy. Replicated segments will help. Think about, but right now it's not there. And yeah, there are like
don't
a lot
use
of
Andriy,
things.
For example.
Yeah, don't use super expensive analyzers unless you really need them. Really build your kind of really put thoughts into your setup and think about monitoring and backups and data retention and all of these things that can kind of help you have a healthy, and your ops guys can have good night's sleep, things like that. Those are important things.
Which other mistakes have you seen? Like misconfiguration. Backup sounds like a fairly major mistake as well. I would like to hear some mistake stories.
Yeah, I've seen I've seen wiped clusters with that thought they had backups, but there haven't been a successful backup in months. We've seen all of those things happen in production. So I think from my perspective, that you kind of need to take the software development practices into these operational things. And you need to have tests in place, monitoring in place, and you need to kind of know that it's working or feel safe that it's working. Another thing is just bad memory management. So there are just simple things like Lucene segments are append only, so Elasticsearch can really enjoy free RAM, but you need to kind of split it between what you allocate to the Java heap and what you leave for the operating system, and you need to configure it correctly. So turn off a bunch of things and tune it correctly. All these things that are kind of solved by managed services, right? You need to kind of think about them when you do installations. Yeah.
Not necessarily, depending on the app usage, right?
Yeah.
Once you do updates, let's see, that's not the managed service anymore.
Yeah, I think we stressed it enough that it's never going to be a broad question. It's always a very personal question of how do you set up.
Let me ask you a question
for
though.
OpenSearch.
So you mentioned snapshots. What do you think backups in Elasticsearch or OpenSearch? What do you think is worse, having no backups at all, or not monitoring your backups and then finding out 2 months after the fact that you don't have backups running?
Yeah, so it really depends on the. So it's multiple sins in one go, right? So you didn't have replicas, or you incorrectly just your disk setup was wrong. There's so many mistakes that I would have thought worse even before you figured out your backups and didn't work and you didn't monitor it. It's just about the company having some kind of disaster recovery protocol and sticking to how do you make sure that this will work when you actually need it. It's very easy to say we have backups. We've turned on a snapshot policy that you take daily snapshots and just forget about it. But that's kind of like a first mistake. You have to kind of track it.
I'm getting a follow-up question in from the audience, which is, and you just said it's very specific. We can't be general. So what are the best practices for improving OpenSearch's performance? Tell me exactly what to do to make my OpenSearch run better.
Sure. So the main things I would look at are, first of all, your hardware kind of adjustments that you can do. So track things like load average. I think we'll maybe talk more in depth about monitoring in a bit, but track your load average. That's kind of like a good first indicator to see if your system is stressed. And then make sure that you have good sized shards and that you can work in parallel correctly. So what the common pitfalls are shards that are too small, and then it's just inefficient combination of results. With Elasticsearch needs to return one result for all those queries. So correctly size those, make sure that you have enough RAM, enough cores, really track your load average and worker pools, thread pools, basically, see that things are not just waiting in the queue. A lot of things like that. And then the other kind of more personal things are get your mapping straight, make sure you're not using expensive analyzers or expensive queries.
Or the default mapping.
Yeah, or the default mapping. Make sure you're not using prefix wildcards. Things that are just wrong in the way that you do inverse index search in general. It's not even an OpenSearch related thing.
And then profile, benchmark, and confirm that whatever you do is actually changing situation for the better.
Yeah, and hopefully automate all of that as you go about it, and then so you can just do it again and again whenever you need to. Oh, that just sounded like my job. I'm sorry.
But I think there's a lot of things that people can do for themselves with this tool, right? So you're giving some really great advice. I know that you fix things for other people as well. But
yeah, my disadvantage is that I only see those systems when they have already been broken.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah, we don't need you if it's all going well. I got it. So it sounds like there's more than one kind of monitoring. We think about the traditional sort of server monitoring, but actually, how is your cluster feeling? How's that health looking? How are the queries doing? And how different is that to yesterday? There's some good things there.
It's a long track. You have to know what were your measurements a week ago to see how they're going right now, so you can measure and see the progress.
And when we talk about the good practices for tuning and for configuring, is that something that's changed over time, where you see something and you go, oh, I remember when we used to do this? Everybody's nodding.
Yeah, definitely. So there were a lot of things that changed with the way that the cluster state has been broadcasted before. I see Andriy nodding and like seeing nightmares come back to life. But there have been a lot of changes. So we just used to pre-allocate shards differently, and we didn't have things like index state management, and we didn't have things that would automate all of the transitions. So we just had usually like shabby scripts buried in some repository that we used to run. Again, something you need to make sure that even worked and orchestrated correctly, which kind of rolled over indices and deleted old data, and all of these things are now completely out of the box in the OpenSearch project, or like with the index state management. I think it's a plugin, but it's always pre-installed. So.
Yeah, and memory usage, and how things are optimized, and features that sometimes are not enabled by default, like index sorting on index time. So there's obviously there's a lot going on. There's also in the Syn core project a lot of things that are being improved over time, and keep still being worked on. So it's a completely live project and kicking, and it's definitely evolving. And so I mentioned vectors before. Sorry for jumping on that again, right? But again, it's probably early days of vectors in OpenSearch, and then it's getting better and better over time. So like any technology, and this one is really live and actually getting improved all the time.
I would just add that again, from a operational standpoint, a number of good features went in to kind of introduce back pressure on search paths, so to prevent these operational issues from happening before they actually put down your clusters completely. And this is a very exciting work, and I see it more and more being kind of extended on this level of managing clusters health and resource consumption just on the edge before it goes down.
There's been some really good advice, and I know that you're all very hands-on day to day, but I'm going to ask you to do something that's much less real. You've been in this ecosystem for a while, and when you look around and look at where we've been, where we've come to, I'm going to ask each of you for your predictions for the next 5 years. Where are we? What's coming? What should we be excited about in this space? I know you said, oh, everyone's using OpenSearch now. It's not new and exciting. Really? Nothing exciting? Tell me.
Andriy, you want to take it? You have like insane knowledge, I guess.
This is I wish I have it, but anyway, I will try. I would say maybe I will start from a assumption that Elasticsearch and OpenSearch will build very, very different products in 5 years. They are different now, but they will be even more different in 5 years. I see a lot of interesting new features coming in for OpenSearch. They are right now being discussed or just brought by community to improve for example, time series data, how we can deal with that. Again, vector search, as Itamar said, how to efficiently do that. Maybe semantic search as well. I saw a couple of interesting points on this in this regards. It's kind of a lot of work on the OpenSearch side and probably on the Syn side as well. So we try to cover both these products. And I think I would definitely prefer to see more clear roadmap from a product perspective, besides what we know right now, what's happening. Maybe it will be there, but I actually very excited about the next, at least next 2-3 years. That's for sure. We are going to be busy. 5 years will be hard to say. Tamar, stage is yours, I guess.
Yeah, so I think I actually mentioned it already. I believe, so I think we need to split this question into two. There is core OpenSearch, so what you can, sorry, I muted myself by accident. So the core OpenSearch, how you use it, what it can do for you, performance, etc. And then use cases and what we often call as applications or solutions around what you can do with OpenSearch. So I would split it into those two. And I think what we're going to see is the directions we're going to see is that OpenSearch is going to put more and more efforts into supporting the vector use cases. So let's not just search for documents containing the word foo. Let's find documents that are containing the word or related to the word, right? So if I search for a queen, I probably also want to find documents containing the word crown. How do I know they are related? I compiled the model, deployed it into OpenSearch, or just embedded vectors and have embeddings in my documents, and I'm using that to search, right? So search is going to be to move slowly from term-based to vector-based, which would also allow us to search for images more easily and sound and things like that. So that's one direction I think will be in core and obviously will allow us to do solutions around it. The second one is I really believe on the serverless approach, like I mentioned before. So it is going to be very useful and also less cheap, right? But for customers to run OpenSearch, but as a serverless, as a managed, but even more hands-free, a low-touch solution, and that will probably also bring more new issues with it. But essentially, the serverless approach is the direction that I'm seeing that's being taken by OpenSearch really strongly, and I know for a fact it will be a thing. It will take a year or two before it matures, but it's definitely going there. So those are the two directions I see in core. In terms of applications or solutions, things that you can do with OpenSearch. So I think that again the machine learning parts. So you suddenly see solutions around doing machine learning or AI based search on top of OpenSearch, and suddenly you'll have a solution that can take images, and it will become a commodity to create a model out of it and push it, or solutions that will allow you to improve your search automatically or personalization automatically because of those features exist.
Yeah, I think with this year kind of explosion of the past year explosion of ChatGPT and the GPT-3 and I guess the large language models in general, I'm not sure exactly how it will kind of merge with the full text and I don't know, text search engine and semantic search engines, but probably 5 years from now it will be still kind of shaping. But I think that there will be a lot of movement into that area to kind of merge them together to build some new synergy probably.
I also think that it's going to be, it's already like, you can already use these things as a complementary solution for many use cases. Personalization, like Itamar mentioned, is one of them. So when someone searches for crown, how do you know that Lior is actually referring to the TV show that he likes? Or it's just things like that can rely on. Lior likes TV shows, and then we can kind of make all these assessments. So those are kind of going to be pretty cool. And also just how do you process click streams, things like that, to kind of know what are the better solutions or better results, sorry, for a given customer, given a given query, even though the like lexical score, right, might not be the optimal one. So those things are kind of already in place, right? You can do them. It requires some plugins and advanced tuning of the features, but you can do those today.
But you see them coming more.
Yeah, they'll definitely be easier and mainstream. They'll be expected from search engines, I think. While now you just expect the search engine to give you like the lexical results, and you'll fine tune it. You'll add another word, or you'll search it differently to see if you get something. I think it'll be more expected for things to give you like more context-aware results.
Yeah,
I'm pretty interested in like the use cases that you see for that. I think the obvious one is like product searching, where you didn't want this one, but do you want this one? What else? What are your kind of most exciting use cases for the future?
I'll have to think about it. I'm seeing that I think that there are some things about the usability that I would maybe it's more of a wish list. I don't think it's coming just yet, but some things like how do you more effectively search the most interesting piece of the document, for example. If you just had a really long piece of text, how do you like pinpoint to here is your paragraph? Things that are a little bit more hard to do right now. So I would hope to see them improve, other than all of the fancy ML things. Yeah, don't have that huge wish list yet. I think it's just it looks like the future is bright. A lot of things are covered already. Itamar probably has better. He's more the visionary guy. I'm just the one taking out the fires. I don't know.
I've just been doing this for too long, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, I like as I mentioned already. I like multilingual content a lot, and just like when you have a piece of content and it's all in one language, that's covered now. But if it's in mixed languages, then with the current solutions, you need some tricks to get it properly kind of processed and searched. But hopefully somewhere in the future, it will be possible to analyze basically different pieces of the same text with a different analyzing pipelines, like detect language, all this kind of stuff. Bring people more together.
That is such a lovely, hopeful set of things for the future, and especially with the bringing everyone together with the languages. You can guess I only speak one language, so this is something I don't run into, but I think is really, really important. So I really like that. And I really feel on that high note, perhaps we can kind of leave it there. Is there anything any of you wants to give as advice or plug? What do you want your audience to know before we leave them today?
So I think OpenSearch, doesn't have to be that, PITA to manage, right? It doesn't have to be that hard to manage and get right. And as like every, let's call it database or data store engine, it can definitely, it can be optimized. You can learn and make it work for you. Or, you can go to a managed service or use services like ours on your self-managed server at OpenSearch cluster to get it right. But overall, I think just be more cautious when reading online blogs. I think that is mostly where we see problems coming from. There's too many blogs about OpenSearch and Elasticsearch that give the wrong advice, or an advice that was tried on a certain scale but hasn't been tried on a bigger one. So I think be more cautious. Just like I think Arkadii mentioned, just benchmark a little bit more, be more critic about what you do. And overall, I think again it's a technology it's linearly scalable. If it doesn't work for you, you either are using it for the wrong use case or you're just following the wrong advice. Otherwise, it's really a great technology to play with, and I don't know, don't be frightened.
I really like that. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Okay,
I just
I'll
think.
go first.
Yeah, sorry. I just think it's just easy. Like I said earlier, just easy to set up and try. See kind of how it works. I think we covered all of the like easy pitfalls to fall into, or easy pitfalls to avoid. Let's say. So those are outlined. And yeah, hopefully it will be even easier with all the work Andriy and his team are doing there. So we're hoping for a bright future.
I would like just to add that we would like OpenSearch to be available for probably any possible integrations people use it for. For example, you go Spark, OpenSearch is there, you go Flink, OpenSearch is there, you go probably anywhere where OpenSearch fits, we would like to have this integration available for you. It was very difficult 2 years ago. Now the situation is much better, but we still don't know everything. We would like to get more from community, where we have gaps, where we can improve, where they need help from us to invest efforts and help them out with OpenSearch, being a good citizen of their infrastructure.
Yeah, that's what I like about OpenSearch is that there is a ton of even out-of-the-box functionality built as plugins. So it kind of encourages people to build their own plugins, and this I think I believe will be good for everyone.
Yeah, there's a good ecosystem. So I don't know, the OpenSearch Kafka connector, right? I think that's from Aiven. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aiven folks. I'm sorry. Which
Yes.
I've seen work in production very well, in multiple occasions. So all these things are out there. It's really easy to just get things done fast. So that's cool.
I love it. I think there's a bunch of things there, and I hope that everyone who sees this maybe hasn't tried OpenSearch. Aiven has OpenSearch as a managed service with a free trial, so go and kick the tires, and then as you get beyond that hello world, you'll be able to use some of the advice you've heard from our experts today. I will just thank all of you for joining us. It was amazing to have you here on the stream. We do these pretty regularly, so check out the channel, watch for the next episodes, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Lorna. Bye, thank you, Aiven team.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Bye.
Bye.